All right, folks, welcome on into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for everything and all things Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. We are back to our usual format. Appreciate Carl holding down the fort with our good friend Tom Prince while I was away, seeing some sights out in Philadelphia, having a good old time there. This is our last show of the season. We are not going to have one after states. We'll get into that at the end of the show, exactly what's going on there. But it is our final show of the spring. It is our final show of the year. We've got a lot of state championship games to talk about. Section 5, I don't know exactly what the record is, but I feel like we're close to a record for most Section 5 teams, percentage-wise, playing in the state Final Fours, Carl.
Man, last weekend, first off, we're rooting for everyone. I root for the success of everyone. I don't root on y'all downfall. Having said that, though, on Sunday when I was stacking up everything, seeing who was going to go be where for Binghamton, Cortland, and Long Island, my hands got a little bit of a cramp because I'm like, wait a second, man. Another team? Like, I was well aware of the softball sports, and lacrosse because we were at that stuff. I'm like, man, baseball did their thing too. Boys, Lord have mercy. Y'all really did they showed out against Buffalo last weekend, man. So shout out to all the spring sports for putting on a performance because y'all making life difficult on us this weekend, but I guess who really care about us? It's all about y'all.
Yeah, we've got 5 teams for both baseball and softball. We've got 4 teams, clean sweeps in the Far West Regionals for boys lacrosse and girls lacrosse. And I will say this, I will not disagree. I'm not disagreeing with you that we don't root for these teams and these kids. I am saying that if you make it to the state semifinals, you better go all the way and win it all, because if you're gonna lose, lose early for us. Selfishly, as high school sports reporters, writers, coverage, if you're gonna make it this far, go all the way. And, I'm sure the kids aren't gonna argue about winning all state championship. But we don't need this losing in the state semifinals. We go out to Cortland and cover, state semis and lose both games, etc. Keep going now. You've already got us to do the work. Keep going. Go all the way.
I can agree with you wholeheartedly on that one because that's not close. It's not even Buffalo. Like Cortland and Binghamton, it's a little bit of a trek. That's a couple. That's about a couple music albums right there. That's how I'd be thinking about my.
That's a couple of High School Huddle podcasts, is what you mean to say, Carl.
Exactly. That's not close. It's not like a trip down to the Finger Lakes, Canandaigua specifically. So I'm with you wholeheartedly on that one for sure. That's y'all go all the way and at least make it there. I ain't saying win it, but please make it there at least.
Exactly. So, kind of doing a quick recap of what we saw last week. I saw the Philadelphia Phillies. Thad Brown was at softball all day. We'll kind of get into some of the craziness that happened when we talk about the state Final Four. Carl, you were at the girls lacrosse, domination. Section 5 versus Section 6. Always routes. This year, the tradition held up its serve there.
Yeah, all 4 teams advanced, and they just advanced. They dominated. Fairport, Victor, Mercy, and Penn Yan all going to the state Final Four. And to add some perspective on how dominant the girls have been at this round, specifically the Far West Regionals, since 2001, I received this statistic from Jeff D. Veronica, West Irondequoit, 65-1.
Mm-hmm.
65, 1 loss. The only one was back in 2008. Rush Henrietta lost to Lancaster that year. Since then, it's been straight domination. So I don't know, like, when y'all win a state championship, speaking for those who are here in Section 5, the girls lacrosse team, do y'all just automatically start booking hotels for Cortland? Because y'all know, like, 2 weeks in advance?
I bet the parents do, but they don't tell their kids. I feel like you get a little superstitious there. That's my guess. I have no inside knowledge. That's my guess.
And that'd be smart. And it'd be a little cheaper. Get it 2 weeks out. You feel me? Get a little cheaper, a little discount. And because it was straight domination. I mean, I can go down the line of how all these teams did. Victor, I think they scored the first 7 goals of the game.
I think they won 22-0. So I think they scored the first 22 goals of the game.
Wrong domination. Excuse me. Wrong game where the team. Yes, Victor, a shutout. Like, what are we doing here? This is not like a shutout in lacrosse. You tell me they couldn't accidentally get 1 in the goal? And I know Victor put in some of the underclassmen in the game who don't play see as much time. They could, none of them could. that team is legit for a reason. Fairport did their thing. Also, without Lily Condas, remember you talked about on our podcast earlier, losing her early on in the year, still chugging along. They all did their things, made my life very easy on Saturday. I'll say, hey,
Yeah.
get a couple goals, boom. I ain't got to worry about sending nothing to Buffalo because they don't want none of them blowouts. So shout out to the girls lacrosse teams for making it this far. They'll obviously play tomorrow, Friday, June 7th for their semifinals.
Yeah, so let's get right into our state tournament previews. Like I said, it's going to be tough to go too far in depth because there are a lot of teams and a lot of teams from Long Island, which, spoiler alert, we haven't seen any of the teams on Long Island so far this year. So let's get into some of the games we got. We'll start with girls lacrosse since we just got done talking about that. All 4 teams dominated the Far West Regionals, as you mentioned. Class A, perhaps the game of the day. There's a lot of games of the day, obviously. Fairport versus Massapequa, a rematch of last year's overtime game where Fairport won their state championship. This game could end up, a very real chance it ends up being the state championship game, the quote unquote. I know Cicero North Syracuse is going to have something to say about that. They're probably going to be a tough out in that. So I think there's like kind of 3 teams a little bit clearly ahead of the field. We got Fairport taking on Massapequa. Fairport kind of finding their stride late in the season. You know, they dealt with some injuries. They started picking up some wins late this season. So that is Class A. In Victor, number 1 team in the state, taking on West Islip from Long Island. They are 3rd in the state. And then in Class C and D, you've got 2 teams from Section 5 playing against the number 1 teams in the state, both from Long Island. In Class C, you've got Mercy, which is ranked 10th in the state, taking on Sayville, who is number 1 in the state, and they're 19-0 on the season. And in that top 10, there are, I believe, like 6 teams from Long Island. So they basically had to be better than all of those top 10 teams to get there. So good luck to the Monarchs. And then you've got what really could end up being the state championship game. Penn Yan taking on Cold Spring Harbor in Class D. Penn Yan, number 2 in the state. Cold Spring Harbor, number 1 in the state. So it's basically, Rochester versus Long Island in all 4 of these games. Arguably the 2 heaviest hitting section, regions of the state. So these semifinals are going to have a lot to say about who goes up and wins the state championship when they play on Saturday.
Got some different storylines too, obviously, with Victor going for their 3rd. I believe that'd be the first lacrosse team in Section 5 to do so, if I'm not mistaken. I think I saw that somewhere. Fairport's going for 2 in a row, which is unique in his own right. Mercy has never been here. So now granted, they're going up against Sayville, and I'm not betting against y'all. I'm not betting on anything. We ain't about to get me in trouble with no New York State Gambling Commission here. But never been here before. Hey, maybe that helps you out to a certain extent. You don't know what you don't know. And then Penn Yan obviously has some pedigree as well down there. The Bailey Cooper show. So I mean, sophomore sensation. Shout out to her. So some different storylines that have made it this far. Not just 4 juggernauts that are always regulars at Cortland every year.
No, it'll be fun to see Victor and Fairport, getting back there. I mean, last year was the year that Victor really wasn't supposed to be there. They lost so much from that team 2 years ago. I talked to the team after the game. That was all about, we're back, we're here. Everybody thought it'd be a down year, and hey, guess what? We're still a state champs. So I'm especially looking forward to see what happens in those large school matchups with Fairport and with Victor. Moving over to boys lacrosse, the state semifinals already happened yesterday, Wednesday, as we record this podcast on Thursday. Went 2-2. Small school teams both came up on the short end of the stick. Marcellus beating Aquinas 15-8. Jamesville DeWitt taking down HFL 22-7. That JD team is really good, folks. And then in Class A, you've got McQuaid, fresh off their first sectional title in program history. They took down Liverpool 10-5. Really, the story of that game was their fast start. They got up to a 4-0 lead. They scored 2 goals in the first 3 minutes. After that 4-0 run, the game was very close. It was 6-5 after that. So after that fast start, it was really, an even playing field. But the Knights with that quick start really propelled them to victory. John Harding with 3 goals. Vincenzo Giangreco with 2, AJ Quagliarella with 2. McQuaid will play Farmingdale from Long Island on Long Island, number 20th in the country. Yes, in the country, folks. So good luck to the Knights. And then Victor beat Vestal 17-6. They scored the first 13 goals. Jackson Meade had 6 of them. I read on the boys lacrosse BLAC Section 5 website, 2 guys for Victor got their first ever varsity goals in this game, which is a state semifinal game, which is kind of ridiculous to think about. So that's what Victor did on Wednesday. They'll take on Southside, number 18 in the country. So both of those 2 Section 5 teams heading to Hofstra, and they have their work cut out for them, but certainly impressive performances in the semifinals to get there.
I want to talk about McQuaid for a second here, and for the Knights fans out here, don't take it personal. I'm a private school kid. I went to a private school that was really darn good at a lot of sports. But it was so shocking when I found out that McQuaid, this is like their first ever run in boys lacrosse, in lacrosse. Like, you would think a school that is so successful in all the different sports, whether it's football, hockey. I know they have some excellence in track. You mean to tell me they couldn't, like, this is the first year that, like, lacrosse was the vibe? And maybe that had to do with some of the kids staying in the respective local schools and public schools and things of that nature. But I know back in Ohio, I went to saying that we're big powerhouse for athletics. Our lacrosse program may never get nothing done. They used to always get teased. Like, what you mean? So shout out to McQuaid, man. Y'all really balling this year. Let Johnny Football, obviously, Johnny Harding doing his thing as well. But I think that is kind of cool that, like, McQuaid, like, this was one of the few sports where they wasn't dominating, and this year they told Fairport, "Excuse me, like we about to start caring about this sport and doing our thing here too." So for the Knights to do that, make it to this point is very impressive from my perspective.
No, and that's kind of continuing a little bit of a trend for McQuaid, because I think McQuaid's at what, 4? I think they're at 5 in a row football sectional titles now, something like that. And before that, it had been like, I think 39 or 41 years, something like that. So certainly whatever McQuaid's doing in these recent years, sorry for Section 5, McQuaid is certainly reinvigorating the private versus public school debate that we always meander somewhat into. They're certainly boosting the case, that's for sure.
That's one way to put it. I'll tell you that. That's one way to put it.
Yeah. And, if you're McQuaid, that's a good problem to have. Let the people talk. Let the people talk. Let's move on to the Diamond. We're going to start with softball here. As we mentioned before, we've got 5 schools going to the Long Island area to play Friday and Saturday. These teams already out there. Fairport, Class AAA. We kind of counted them out all season long. They said, sorry, guys, we're going to beat Lancaster in the regionals 9-6. Fairport, they lost their last 4 games of the regular season, and they have picked things up, taking down Lancaster 9-6. An impressive win. Class A, Sutherland taking on Miller Place in the Far West regionals, or excuse me, in the state semifinals. They beat Iroquois extra innings. 8th inning, Carl Orlando, the home run that wasn't. Carl, why don't you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, so she hit the ball over the fence. It was the walk-off, and I believe there were multiple runners on base. So
first and third, yeah.
First and third. So you would have assumed been a 3-run shot. So it would have been a 4-1 result. Woo woo, like, oh my gosh, they won. However, her teammates got so excited, and herself included, she stopped running after she got to first base. And anyone who's played baseball, y'all do realize they celebrate at the plate. Like, they don't celebrate like for home runs, yeah, folks. They don't celebrate at second for a reason. And I guess they were so excited, just elated that they did a pile right next to the circle, like in between first and second. So she never even made it to second base. Technically, it was a walk-off single, technically, because she never made it to second. But that doesn't matter because there was a run on third who would have scored. So in her mind, that's a walk-off homer. Technically, by the book, we got to say walk-off single. I said walk-off hit today because I didn't want to get into the theatrics. Regardless, it was an incident that almost went viral because we've all heard of examples of that same scenario happening. And if that runner wasn't on third and she was on second, Lord have mercy. that whole team would have been running sprints for a whole year if that would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if the runner was on second, that wouldn't have even happened because like they would have waited for them at home. But no, I think visions of Palmac baseball flashes in your. Yeah, I think it was Palmac, right, against Hornell. Was it
Yes,
Hornell? Yeah,
it
I
was
think.
Hornell, but it was those two teams. I know those
Yeah,
two
those
teams.
two teams, Palmac and Hornell. Visions of that game just flashes in your head. Thad Brown, our sports director who was shooting that game, he himself thought I've got the John Boy video. I've got what John Boy is going to break down on Twitter, this and that. And I was reading the Pick and Splinters article, and Sutherland's head coach was not 100% confident that, his team would have ended up winning that game because, he's worried about we ran out of order, they can tag her out, yada, yada, this. I know that was a stressful time for the coaches of the winning team, of the losing team, the umpires themselves. They've probably never had to deal with this before, but all's well that end well, and Sutherland is going to the state semifinals. 3 small school teams making their way to the Final Four. Wellsville taking on Marcellus in the state semis. Wellsville off their 4th straight sectional title. Bloomfield, the Bombers in Class C, they won their first ever sectional title. And it's in large part due to one Miss Ashlyn Wright, their star pitcher. And we're going to get to Nevaeh Ross in just a second. If it wasn't for Nevaeh Ross, we'd know a lot more about Ashlyn Wright because Miss Wright so far this year, these statistics coming from the preview article on Pick and Splinters, great jobs over there as always. 137 innings pitched, a 0.56 ERA with 279 strikeouts. And she's gone 43 straight innings without allowing an earned run. They literally shut out in the sectional title game, shut out in the Class C crossover game, shut out in the Far West Regionals. Ashlyn Wright, hot diggity dog. And then moving down to Class D, Friendship-Scio versus Deposit Hancock, Nevaeh Ross, we've heard all about her. She's got a, wait for it, 0.14 ERA. That's 1.4. That's not a 1.40. That's a 0.14 ERA with 339 Ks and 10 shutouts on the year and 2 perfect games. Ashlyn Wright, Nevaeh Ross, have a season.
Can't even say video game type stuff because I've played baseball games a long time. Never got close to that. Never, ever.
You can't do that with Pablo Sanchez and Backyards Baseball. You can't even do that.
Nah, that's not even possible. And I was actually at that Bloomfield Far West Regional on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, no, Friday, excuse me. And I'm like, Ashlyn Wright, when I'm recording the highlight, I'm like, oh, she's just having a game. Like, cool, like whatever. And then today, as we're recording this on Thursday, we're diving in, to our Section 5 Best segment. Also looking forward to our Spring Sports Award Show. And I'm like, wait a minute, that name sounds mad familiar. I think that was the girl that had the crossover game. She legit. I apologize for not putting respect on your name earlier. You're dominant, 43 straight innings without an earned run. Shout out to you, sis. You doing your thing out there in Bloomfield. Hopefully you can continue to do so down at the state tournament.
Yeah, that game, Bloomfield versus Pine Plains, the Bombers versus the Bombers, always fun there. And then that Class D game, Friendship-Scio, maybe actually the storyline of the these state semifinals. These two teams met in the state championship game last year, and Deposit Hancock beat Friendship-Scio 5-3 in 13 innings. If you forget, folks, they're supposed to play 7, and they played 13. And they also played 2 years ago in states. Deposit Hancock won that as well. I believe that was in the state semifinals. So a lot of bad blood on this field. Nevaeh Ross has probably slept, with taped on her ceiling, Deposit Hancock, like their logo or something, just like dreaming of that matchup in the back of her mind. So best of luck to all of our softball teams as they play in the state semifinals. Then in baseball, once again, 5 teams making their way to Binghamton for Friday and Saturday. We'll start off with Fairport. Once again, Class AAA. They'll be taking on Comic. I believe that's how you pronounce it. We'll figure out tomorrow. They beat Lancaster 5-2 in the Far West Regionals, avenging last year's defeat in that game. Sam Miller, he made our Section 5 best. A lot of Ks, 3 for 3. He's having a ridiculous season, 1.57 ERA. I love watching the kid pitch. I'll just say that. I've seen him, I think, play 2 or 3 games, all at Frontier Field. Kid's got swag. Kid's got attitude. He strikes you out and he lets you know about it. Class AA, Victor versus Hop Hog. Am I saying it right? We'll find out tomorrow. They beat Clarence 4-1 in the state semifinals. The Far West Regionals. A lot of games to talk about. Weston Elkovich, their stud on the mound. A 2.22 ERA with 58 Ks, 10-3 on the year. He's going to Canisius. And then in Class A, Sutherland versus Kings Park. Paul Byron leading the way for the Knights. He's got a 1.46 ERA on the season. Kings Park, they have 5 college commits, not on the D1 level, but they've got quite a team there. So 3 teams in our large schools making their way to Binghamton for the state semifinals, Carl.
Yeah, I also want to give Byrne a little bit of credit for the Sutherland game. That game, their Far West Regional went 13 innings as well. He pitched 9 of them, and I believe the only reason he got pulled is because he reached 130 pitches.
Mm-hmm.
So state mandated, get off the mound, kid. We don't want your arm to fall off. In that game, he had 14 Ks, only allowed 3 hits. Don't know if my man's arm still works. Hopefully it does, because they're going to need him this weekend, obviously, because he's a fantastic player who's headed to Cortland next year. So shout out to that performance right there. Wasn't able to give you no love on Section 5 best, but I saw that performance. And my arm hurt just watching them throw. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like baseball was not my thing. Like I was terrible at it. I was scared of everything about it. Getting hit in the batter's box, getting hit as a pitcher, like everything about that was just scary to me. So the fact that you can throw the ball 130
So which is
times,
why you clearly went to the less dangerous sport of football.
Yes, because I got pads. I can protect myself. There is nothing to protect me if a line drive comes back and hits me. That was my logic. Makes no sense. I get it.
You got to get the Big Poppy physique. Get yourself a little added protection.
Well, that's my parents' fault, because I came out 130 pounds soaking wet in high school, so I ain't get that genetic. I'm sorry. Blame them. We're gonna blame my parents for me not wanting to play sports.
There we go. That's how we're gonna do our last high school huddle of the year.
Yeah,
blame the Joneses.
Yeah, mom and pops, y'all fault for me not being being a good athlete in baseball. But no, I just want to give him credit and love for that, because he did his thing. I know we talked about Elkovich and gave him his flowers for his sectional title performance against Athena. And then Sam Miller's been doing his thing on the mound for quite some time now, as you alluded to.
I just want to point out that was the 4.2940 kid blaming his parents for his bad athletic genes. So I just want to make sure that is on the record as we transition over to talking about our last 2 baseball games. Boulevard Richburg in Class C taking on Burke Catholic, and then Arkport Canasarega versus Chapel Field. Obviously, we don't get to cover those 2 schools a lot because they are not exactly in the Rochester viewing area, Section 5, quite large. But best of luck to those 2 teams making their way to the state Final Four. So not all about these 4 sports. We had some sports kind of wrapping up our season. We talked about Drew Fishback earlier in, I believe, our last show that we were together. Boy, did he make me look smart. Won the state championship in individual tennis. He had I believe it was a 3-set game in the semifinals where he lost the first, won the next 2. Championship domination on Sunday for Mr. Fishback. And then for our boys golfers out there, top performers, Brody Burgess. He was 3 under and tied for 4th at states, a year off of his tied for first finish. So both those sports bring home some impressive performances, Carl.
Also, don't forget about flag football.
Yes.
That was last weekend. Shout out to the Lady Kings, Bishop Kearney, first ever Division II title. Greta Bazinski and Nela Lapusanova, the quarterback. I got that on the first try. I've said the name like 10 times today, so not too much credit for myself. But quarterback receiver duo combined for 5 touchdown passes. That it was, and some of them she was open. Some of them the defense clearly scared of her, because she's a legit hockey player, y'all. Y'all gonna hear about that last name for other reasons outside of flag football, by the way. Fantastic. Once again, it's just an historic feat. We've talked about ad nauseum on this show about what flag football came from and what it's going to be in the future. First year of the state championships, and they can now look back in history 20 years from now and say that Bishop Kearney was the first ever state champs for Division II. So just want to give them their flowers for that. In their run where they had a game winner, they were blowing teams out, and then they literally had Greta had 6 touchdowns in one game in the state titles game. So just want to give them their flowers for that.
And then, of course, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we'll be sitting around here being like, they let Bishop Kearney play in B2 in flag football. How are they in the lowest section in Section 5? I can't wait for private public school debates in flag football. Oh, that'll be fun. Because, I mean, and Carl is not exaggerating about Lapusanova. Literally, she's not on the roster right now, so we've had to, do some investigating to, find her name. You go on Twitter and people are talking about this girl like she's Connor McDavid, like she's LeBron James, who else? Paul Skeens, Bryce Harper. They're tank for this girl now. Start planning your cap. Tank the year before she goes in the Professional Women's Hockey League draft. She's, I believe Slovakia. She's ridiculous. She's playing with women and she's crushing. And playing at Bishop Kearney Selects. I don't know how long she's going to stay there because, she could probably pick any school in the country. Maybe she goes somewhere. I don't know what she's going to do, but I know she's going to do great things in the future. That's for sure.
Only 15, I think. So ridiculous athlete. You can tell when you watch her on the flag football field. I was like, man, she's really good. Once again, I wanted to get her age because usually, she's a youngster. Oh my God, a freshman did this. It makes it all the more impressive that this is not even her first sport, probably not even her second sport. Like AJ and I talked about earlier, it probably came down to one of those things. BK was like, hey, we might be all right in flag football. You trying to catch and run a little bit? I guess. They probably picked her up halfway through the year. Because she's not on the roster, y'all. Y'all ain't going to be able to find her on section5.com. Just great athlete. I encourage y'all to look up her name on Twitter and just see some of the highlights. Because if someone like myself who's not well versed in hockey, I know an impressive highlight when I see one, and she's doing her thing at just 15 years old on the ice.
Yeah, I'm reading articles right now on the hockey news. They're talking about how her staying at Bishop Kearney for the rest of the spring is going to impact Slovakia's chances at Worlds. It's just ridiculous. Bishop Kearney is apparently ranked #1 in the country as well. So shout out to the selects, but and now they're really good at flag football too. So that'll kind of do it for us on the high school huddle today. Like I said, this is our last show of the season, last show of the year. If you want some more info, Carl Jones on his Twitter feed. If you want to say anything right now before we go. But this is going to be it for the high school huddle this year.
Yeah, man, it's been a hell of a ride. It's been always dope to be able to cover these kids and all the different sports. Whether it's me early fall, I know y'all was probably tired of me in the fall. Here he goes talking about that weather again. Oh my gosh, dude, you live in New York, get it, deal with it. I know, don't care. Still gonna hear me complain about it. But no, honestly, just really dope that these kids just allowed us to be able to share their stuff and put them stuff on the platform because, like AJ and I have talked about ad nauseum, we know what it was like when we were kids and how cool it was for anyone to talk about us. So the fact that we can,
nobody talked about me, so
yeah, they was talking about eating. They was talking about eating. They was talking about. You might not have seen it, but they was talking about eating for sure. But regardless, I know they appreciate it, and it's cool to be on the other end of it. But for my personal journey, it will be my last episode, personally, and also one of the last things that I do here at News 8. We'll be heading up, it won't be too far. I'll be out in Buffalo, WIVB, same position. So just wanted to share that news for anyone who wants to, I guess, keep up, know anything. I don't know. I'm not really good at this goodbye stuff, y'all. I'm good at a lot of things, goodbyes and planning things out. I don't even have a goodbye party listed up, and I'm gone in a couple of days, y'all. So just bear with me here as I wing this on the fly. But no, I just truly appreciate everything. All y'all really been dope and cool and made this journey and this job one of the most fun things I've ever done.
No, and the good thing is he'll be back at St. John Fisher for training camp, so you guys can all yell at him from the sidelines, ask for his autograph because that happens
No, okay. For real though, like let's not do that this year, y'all. Because like 2 years ago when y'all did it, it was kind of funny. But I obviously didn't sign no autographs. But last year when y'all did it, it wasn't funny because a player actually saw me and it made it look like I was trying to sign autographs. Like no, no. So like, hey everybody, don't do that this year because now if Von Miller look at me, Von Miller gonna be like, dude, what is you doing? You're not on the team for real. Like, bro, you think I'm out here signing this little kid's forehead for a reason, bro? Like, I don't want to do that. Like, so. Don't do that. Y'all can say what up. But I'm not signing no shirts. I didn't before, and I'm definitely not gonna do it now. So just wanted to say that for sure.
The funniest is when the high school football teams, their coaches, they bring their kids and their the youth, whatever, they encourage it. That's the funniest stories I get out of that.
I'm not gonna throw any high school coaches under the bus, but y'all know who y'all are and who y'all is and what y'all did to me in the past in front of all the reporters and all the players. He the corner. No, he not. He not. No, he's not. No, he is not. No, he. I got a polo on for a reason. No, not me. So y'all know who y'all are.
No, but in all seriousness, it has been a lot of fun doing the podcast with Carl. Of course, having you around the office, and luckily you won't be too far away. So now we got someone who can send us footage and whatever from Buffalo, and we know that it's going to be grade A+ stuff. So looking forward to having you still right around the corner. So that'll do it for us today on the High School Huddle podcast. As mentioned like 6 times, our last show of the year. We'll see what this show becomes next year. There's a chance it evolves. There's a chance it changes. We'll see if we have the man or woman power to do this show to begin with. Who knows what's going on in the future. We better hire somebody quick because I need to take some days off. But that'll do it for us today on the High School Huddle. Thank you so much for watching and listening all season long. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, RochesterFirst.com. For Carl Jones for the final time ever. For AJ Feldman, that is me for the final time this season. It is now time to break the huddle. We'll see you later.